What's up everyone, Killosaurus Rex here, and the second generation King Ghidorah, dubbed the Heisei era Ghidorah, has an origin story that couldn't be more different from the previous incarnation. This world-ending kaiju begins life as 3 genetically engineered pet Pikachus from the 23rd century. Pika Pika! Brought back in time to the mid-19th century, exposed to the atom bomb radiation and mutated into a world-ending triple-headed tyrant in the 21st century. This all-powerful, man-made kaiju was unleashed upon Japan by a group of time-traveling terrorists called the Futurians. I know, right?
Hilarious and original.
To prevent all of Japan from becoming an economic superpower in the future. However, Ghidorah's rampage was brought to a halt by the kaiju who lived.
The boy who lived. How lies have fed your legend, Harry.
You see, in the first half of the film, the Futurians manipulated Japan into trying to permanently end Godzilla with time travel. In this timeline, Godzilla was originally a living dinosaur called the Godzillasaurus.
It's a dinosaur! A gigantic dinosaur is attacking our boys!
A dinosaur? What?
You think we're ever gonna get a HIYA Toys Godzillasaurus? I don't know. The Godzillasaurus was mutated by the atom bombs into Godzilla himself. The Futurians allied with Japan to travel back in time and teleport the Godzillasaurus away from the bomb site and into the bottom of the ocean, presumably drowning and killing it. But, unfortunately,
time doesn't work that way. Changing the past doesn't change the future.
He suddenly reappears in the ocean that they sent him to drown and absorbs the power of a nuclear submarine to grow to 100 meters in size. And then proceeds to fight and defeat King Ghidorah. Although, Godzilla was a little pissed off after humanity tried to off him with a time paradox.
What about Godzilla?
Wow, it's not the dinosaur we knew. Just look at that thing. It's not going to be friendly to us.
Since Godzilla turned from the ally to the main threat, King Ghidorah was reused for the second half of the plot. But we'll talk about that later. My main point of this intro is that I was 100% correct in my first Ghidorah review. Not only will Godzilla and King Ghidorah face each other in battle every generation, but their origins will change so much, and somehow they will still be so bad-ass. HIYA Toys' Exquisite Basic 1991 King Ghidorah was the second Toho kaiju HIYA Toys made after their 1991 Godzilla figure from the same film. As I previously said, this is the second generation King Ghidorah, who appeared in the 1991 film Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. This was the first film where Godzilla and Ghidorah would face off against each other solo, since they battled in groups during the Showa era. This was the third film in the second Godzilla generation, dubbed the Heisei generation. The 2 previous films are as follows. Return of Godzilla, which is... it's all there in the title. Literally Return of Godzilla. What else is there to explain? Then there's Godzilla vs. Biollante, which had Godzilla face off against the Heisei original kaiju. Yes, I pre-ordered the figure, and don't worry, you're gonna get a review of it. Being the third film in the series, Toho decided this was the right time to start bringing back some of the Showa series kaijus, specifically the other members of Toho's Big Five, starting with the arch nemesis of the Big G himself. Since their battle would be the overall focus of the film, Toho decided to have Godzilla face Ghidorah 2 times. We'll talk about the second time in another video, but for this video, we'll talk about their first epic battle in Hokkaido. 4 words to sum up the overall battle. Boy, was it brutal! The kaijus faced each other on even ground, so there were no buildings or structures large enough to get in their way. That being said, they both had plenty of elbow room to showcase the full extent of their powers. Unfortunately, King Ghidorah had a little bit of an advantage in flight, firepower, and fighting tactics. But after Ghidorah was disconnected from the Futurian's mind control device, he was temporarily stunned, and that gave Godzilla the chance to launch a counterattack. After Godzilla completely obliterated the Futurians,
Hello, motherfucker.
Ghidorah was left to fight for himself using quick and simple fighting tactics. And actually, it almost worked, since King Ghidorah managed to get Godzilla into a chokehold and nearly suffocate him. Sorry, I just, I cannot stand frothing at the mouth. I just can't. It's really gross in a very disturbing way. It just keeps going. Let's move on, shall we? Godzilla managed to gain the upper hand using one of his new abilities, the nuclear pulse. This powerful attack at point-blank range sent King Ghidorah flying back for miles and damaged his body and burnt part of his right wing. After Godzilla blasted off Ghidorah's middle head with his atomic breath, Ghidorah then tried to retreat, but Godzilla blasted a hole in his other wing, which sent him crashing into the ocean and killing him. In this brutal battle, Godzilla managed to do so much damage to Ghidorah that HIYA Toys decided to make 2 Heisei Ghidorah figures to reflect it. The first figure is just King Ghidorah himself. The second figure is the Hokkaido battle-damaged version. Despite them being the same character, the figures ended up having such huge differences that the Hokkaido battle version is a completely different figure. And today, I'll show you just how different they are in my first double figure review! Yes, I'm looking at 2 versions of the same character in one video just to prove to you that they are actually different. Sue me. I was originally gonna wait for HIYA Toys to release their Mecha King Ghidorah figures so that I could do like a triple review of a triple-headed kaiju. Get it? But then, HIYA Toys did HIYA Toys things, and now they've got 4 figures representing 2 different versions of a single kaiju.
Your math is blowing my mind.
Don't worry, I'll definitely be doing a double review of the Mecha King Ghidorahs once they come out. But for now, I'll start off by saying the paint and detail on the HIYA Toys Exquisite Basic Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah 1991 King Ghidorah action figure is amazing. Whew, what a mouthful. Despite how great it looks compared to the suit in the movie, I can't help but feel slightly catfished by the promo pics. I'm not sure if it's a filter or a different coat of paint, but the color of this figure in the promo pics is brighter and shinier and more solid gold instead of satin gold. That difference isn't really a negative, it just feels like HIYA Toys was trying to oversell it a bit. The actual paint for the figure was an excellent choice. It looks like the character's suit whipped right out of the movie. The only negative I see about it is the difference in material. The film Ghidorah's color was so bright and shiny that he was literally sparkling every time he was on screen. While the figure doesn't have the same sparkle, it certainly has the same amount of life and texture. All throughout the figure, the gold color is beautifully bright, he looks good in just about any lighting, and there's a nice difference in color at the feet. It may not look like it on camera, but the claws are painted a dull shade of beige that, from a distance, can't be seen unless you really zoom in on those feet. Up close, you can definitely see the difference in color. It's a dull beige, and it's got the same level of shine as the rest of the figure somehow. Oh, speaking of the overall figure, apart from the heads and claws, the entire figure is basically one color with a couple bits of weathering which look nice. And since it is easier to paint, the HIYA Toys workers seem to have gotten a little lazy. Hopefully this isn't a widespread problem, but for my copy specifically, the paint job on the wings feels a little not finished. Under certain lighting, you can see fingerprints on the wings, as well as several random smudge marks on the membrane. Granted, the wings are not the main trait of the figure, but I'm addressing it because these wings have a special feature, and we'll talk about that later. This isn't a major negative, I just think it's a problem because a figure with the title of Exquisite shouldn't have obvious finger paint smudges on it. Honestly, I would have been able to look past this if they didn't look as undone as they feel. You remember when I said there are bits of weathering on the main figure? Well, the wings are an unfortunate exception for the weathering. You can see at the base of the wings, the figure's weathering just stops. The lack of weathering paired with the paint quality makes it hard to look at this guy's wings, especially considering the next figure's wings, which we'll get to later. To finish with this figure's paint and detail, we'll look at the best parts, the 3 heads. Thank God HIYA Toys knows how to respect the 3 heads of the 3-headed monster. The paint and detail is maxed out on all 3 heads. The weathering in between the scales just fills them with life. And the colors give them all the character they need. The color separation from the teeth and chin spikes is just as perfect as the claws. Looks great, and the teeth look very nice, and inside of the mouths is beautiful. Love the dull pink with a slight gloss to bring out the shine of saliva. So good. And my favorite part of the paint and detail, just like in my first Ghidorah figure review, the eyes. The eyes have two separate colors in them that give the figure a nice villainous look. A dark yellow with a slight orange in the outline gives a nice solid fiery glow to all of them. Oh, it's so good, and thanks to the sculpt and design, the figure looks just as evil as he's painted. As far as sculpting and designing this Ghidorah goes, it looks relatively simple. However, the vast amount of sculpt and detailing is what makes it impressive. This is a very large figure, and it has some even scale sculpting all throughout. There's so much of the same sculpted detail. There's no breaks in the sculpt, no half-assed design. The whole figure is excellently made. I love it! Out of the box, I thought the tails for this figure were actually too long for the character. But after going back and watching the film for this review, I found out that they were actually built correctly. Very nice design for the wings, and the body is fairly simple, but my god, this Ghidorah's body is so well done that I just can't stop looking at those titties.
You are a sexist motherfucker. The first thing you say out of your words to me is, look at those titties.
To absolutely no one's surprise, the sculpt and detail is the best at the three heads. I love the work HIYA Toys did in sculpting the figure. It looks as evil as the Ghidorah in the film. Since the Heisei Ghidorah's heads were based more on Western dragons instead of Eastern dragons, they looked even more fierce and more dangerous. It was never my favorite Ghidorah design, but I do think it really works for the character. And the figure is a perfect recreation of the character. Of course, it still needs to be posable in order to properly portray the character. And thanks to the articulation and engineering, hinge joint at the mouth and tongue. For some reason, the middle head's tongue on my copy will not move. I sure hope that's only on my copy. All three of the necks have 11 ball joints in them, which gives them an excellent range of articulation. A single ball joint at the torso, which is kinda useless, but I appreciate the effort. Thigh ball joint that has a nice rotation, double bend in the knee, which is also on ball joints. Mid-calf joint doesn't do much, but the ball joint at the ankle does lots to make up for it. And the beautiful double tails have 16 ball joints each. And thanks to the overall length of the tails, there is an excellent amount of range. And finally, at the wings, a hinge joint for the base, and the wings themselves have two nice and solid bendy wires. I love that detail. It allows the figure to express so much more than the movie version could. All the more reason HIYA Toys should have finished the wing paint. This figure has some amazing articulation, and the engineering is stable and solid, meaning this figure can hold just about any pose for however long you'd like. And if you want this figure in the air, you'll need 2 not included figure stands, just like the last Ghidorah I reviewed. But not only is this one a little bit bigger, it's actually heavier. Unfortunately, I won't be using my 2019 King Ghidorah 2.0 for the size comparisons. Storage space is a little rough right now. But hopefully my usual size comparisons will give you a better idea on how much bigger this figure is. Here's HIYA Toys Godzilla and Kong, my first review HIYA Toys Shimo, my previous review, HIYA Toys Monster X, Dasani Water Bottle, Funko Pop 6-inch Godzilla Evolved, and the LEGO Avengers. I gotta say, he would look his absolute best next to the only kaiju that he has ever faced in his only film appearance. The 1991 Godzilla, which, no, not yet. Wait for your video. However, if you just want the Heisei Ghidorah figure alone, then this would definitely be for you. Unless, if my next review manages to convince you otherwise. The paint and detail on the HIYA Toys Exquisite Basic Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah 1991 King Ghidorah Battle Damage version is magnificent. This version was painted to represent the damage that was done to King Ghidorah after experiencing Godzilla's full atomic power at point-blank range. And they did an excellent job, especially with the detailing. The paint appears to be a darker shade of yellow gold, bordering on bronze. And if you take a close look at the scales, you'll notice that each scale is individually weathered and tipped, meaning there's a nice black painted outline for each individual scale, and each of them looks dirtier and smudgier at the tips. I love it! Since the battle damage on Ghidorah could only be seen for a few seconds in the film, it's harder to determine how film accurate this figure's paint really is. Although, after rewatching the entire battle, I figured something out. During the shoot for the first battle in the film, the suits are never really cleaned after any of the shots. They are just thrown right back into the battle, never being repainted or brushed off or cleaned of debris or smudging. Now, since Godzilla is a darker black color, it doesn't really change his look, but for King Ghidorah, the shiny gold color of the suit gets dirtier every time it's exposed to smoke, sparks, fire, and dirt, meaning that as the battle goes on, the dirtier Ghidorah gets, until eventually he is so smudged up that he's almost a different color of gold. HIYA Toys kept it film accurate and made it nicely realistic. And they did an amazing job for the figure's paint and detailing differences. For starters, the wings. Now this is the beautiful weathering and detail job that the other figure's wings were missing. They throw on some nice shading and weathering around the wing bones and membranes, and then to top it off, they darkened the absolute hell out of the wing color. But for this one increase in quality, there is another unfortunate decrease in quality. The eyes have unfortunately lost their vibrance. The paint and detail for the heads is just as amazing as the first figure, and the paint separation is on point for the mouth and teeth. Also, the teeth and chin spikes appear to now be a dark gray to better associate with the whole battle damage look. Very nice. Unfortunately, the eyes are colored with a duller yellow, and there's just too much of it. You can just barely see the orange outline around the edge of the eyes, which I think is a big step in the wrong direction. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Battle damage on the physical body doesn't even affect the eye color. It is much harder to see this as the same character we were just looking at, simply because of the eye color. Not really a big negative because of how small the eyes are, you can't really see the difference at a distance, but I'm still gonna dock a point for it because it feels majorly unnecessary, and it's also a downgrade to their own paint quality, which they've already shown to be at its peak level. It is extremely unnecessary. But for the rest of the paint and detail, it's just gorgeous. It's the level of paint and detail I wanted on the other figure times 2. The weathering is doubled to perfectly show the battle damaged color. And the main differences between the figures are in the sculpt and design. In case you haven't already noticed, one of the heads is missing, which is accurate to the film. Fortunately, not only do you get a severed head accessory, you also get an additional neck piece so that you have the option to plug the center head back in. Looks excellent. The paint, detail, and sculpt for the severed head are so on point with the rest of the figure that you can't even tell it's a separate piece. But I actually like to leave it off for 2 reasons. One, because of the parts that are included to make the severed head look. Attached out of the box, you get a neck piece that is cut off at the top, showing some excellent internal sculpting and detail. I love the sculpt of the bones, veins, skin, and tissue. Looks awfully realistic. And thanks to the dull pink and gloss, it almost looks, too realistic. I can look at it for a little bit, but after staring at it for a while, I start gagging. There's also a neck piece that you can attach to the head itself, which completes the severed head look. The neck piece for the head is just as beautifully detailed as the neck piece for the body. So beautifully sculpted and painted with the detailing that is just okay, let's move on to the main differences of the sculpt and design. The wings. I love the wings on this figure! I don't know if it's the cracks or the giant hole in the wings, but they look great to me. In general, the damage on the wings is excellently done. The cracks add a nice detail, reminiscent of the damage caused by Godzilla's atomic energy. And on the right wing, there's a torn little bit at the corner of the wing, which was done by the effect of Godzilla's nuclear pulse. The damage on the wing looks like it was actually just torn off nicely. And the left wing has this giant blasted hole through it. Nicely done. The torn look is equally well done, and the cracks are just as amazing. They also appear to be somewhat directional to show the explosive force of Godzilla's atomic breath. At least I think that's why the cracks look like that. Either way, it looks amazing. If you look closely at the hole in the wing, you see a large use of dark paint weathering around the edges of the hole, which was done on purpose to show evidence that the wing was full-on blasted through. Other than that, the sculpt and design is the same as the last figure. Excellent sculpt for the heads, scales, wings, all of it. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention something. You should be a little bit careful when handling these Ghidorah figures. The scales are sculpted at a slightly outwards angle, and since each of the scales are tipped, that means... looking motherfucker! These damn figures are leaving imprints on my hands every time I hold them. If it's not the sharp horns or spikes on the chin and back, it's the damn skin shredding me to pieces. Ah! Oh yeah, the tails are really sharp too. The articulation and engineering I already covered, since it's the exact same as the previous figure. In case you were wondering, the damage on the wings does not affect the articulation at all. The wires are still fully functional, and they're also spaced apart from the damage. So let's jump to the size comparisons. I decided to reattach the middle head because I was getting a little sick of looking at the severed head thing. That size comparisons. HIYA Toys Godzilla and Kong. My first review, HIYA Toys Shimo, Dasani Water Bottle, Funko Pop 6-inch Godzilla Evolved, Lego Avengers, and my previous review, HIYA Toys 1991 King Ghidorah, first version. These figures were both built from the same foundation and represent the same character, but their range in differences is large enough, for me at least, to consider them different figures. Unfortunately, there is one similarity between the figures that is gonna cost both of them points on the rating scale. And you already know what that is. 3 words. No gravity beams! Heisei Ghidorah does not glow or change color when using his gravity beams. No excuses, HIYA Toys. I'm extra pissed about this because of the false advertising on both boxes. Sure, the first version has some small lightning effects around 2 of the heads, but the battle damage version has 3 full-on Photoshop beams coming out of all 3 mouths. Fuck you! Now for the overall rating of the figures, I'd say the first version is 7 out of 10, and the battle damage version is 8 out of 10. The reason the battle damage version gets a higher rating is because of the higher level of detail, and also because the figure itself looks good in a larger variety of pictures. The severed head, the holes in the wings make it look like this kaiju has been through hell. Plus, you get the option to reattach the middle head, which makes it virtually identical to the first version, just with higher detail and damaged wings. When it comes to film recreation, the first version would look perfect next to the Heisei Godzilla figure. The battle damaged version can only do so much for film recreation. You're looking at a dragon corpse here, folks. If you wanted to pose the Heisei Ghidorah alongside other kaijus, as well as the Heisei Godzilla figure, I would recommend the battle damaged version. With the added battle damage details, you can make more fighting and battle scenes with other kaijus. But still, the first version looks amazing all on its own, simply because it's a classic King Ghidorah design at its peak level. So if you want the best poster figure that looks absolutely amazing on its own, or just with the Heisei Godzilla figure, I'd recommend the first version. If you want a larger variety of kaiju battle pictures with a rougher and more weathered look, I'd recommend the battle damaged version. And since they're both over the $100 mark, I can only recommend both of them to high-end collectors and Heisei Godzilla superfans. Definitely very nice, but still, purchase both at your own risk. And trust me, I know the risk. Now, these figures have been released publicly for quite some time now, meaning that warehouse stock can be low depending on where you look. So if you're gonna get the first version, I recommend visiting our old friend, the Kokis Toy Store. The regional warehouses are out of stock, but their local warehouse is top priority for restocking, so I'll leave a link for that one in the description. It'll take a while to arrive depending on how far away you are, but it will eventually arrive. As for the battle damage version, you can find it at the Big Bad Toy Store. As I've said before, they do get the figures eventually, but they don't get them immediately. After a few months of being publicly available, the Big Bad Toy Store now has a surplus supply of the battle damaged Ghidorah in stock and up for grabs. So head to that site through my second link in the description to pick up this version. Since I don't have enough shelf space, they both have to go back in the box for now. But once I get some more display shelves, I'll put the first version on the shelf for display, and I'll take out the second version for fight scenes as well as multiverse battles. As for the HIYA Toys Heisei Godzilla, I've only got one version, but I will be reviewing it in time. I'm about to get really busy with upcoming shipments from HIYA Toys, Creative Beast Studio, Nanmu Studio, so I'll try to get a review out quickly if my schedule will allow it. Until then, like this video to let me know you enjoyed it, leave a comment to let me know what you think, and subscribe and hit the bell to know what I'll look at next. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all later!